Hi, community! Just jumping on to talk about Luminescent, our new container that we're so excited is launching on the 10th. So I'm just going to wait for a moment to get Samantha Love Blossom on here with me so we can talk a little bit about the container. It's interesting because, especially with these group containers, when it comes to internet, the way that I see it is essentially sometimes like you run into a bunch of technical difficulties, which is really interesting because it's almost like there's like so much supercharged in the field towards the container that then you like almost short circuit some of these networks. So that's a little bit of why we have been delayed on jumping onto our live. And we'll get Samantha.
Yay! Oh my gosh. Every time I do like a super big program, I always have tech issues.
That's what I was just saying on the live before you jumped on, that it's like sometimes it's interesting because it almost feels like it short circuits sometimes.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like too
but
much
here we
electricity. We're
are.
like, oh my gosh, hi Michelle, yay!
So we are so excited to talk a little bit about the program. If you're going to be joining us for live, go ahead and you can drop questions too in the chat and we can address those too. But Samantha, would you just like to take a moment to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how this program has like been moving through you and all of that?
Ooh, yes, I would love to. So, hi everyone. I'm Samantha Blossom. I see Love Michelle Young there. Hi Michelle, love you. So I am an opulence oracle for visionaries. I work with business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders on the planet to support them with feeling more ease, more flow, and really getting their focus more on amplification of abundance, which is on all the levels, right? Like more physical energy, more emotional energy, more clarity. Because the truth of the universe is that there's more than enough, right? But we have these like ancestral programs that pull us into lack stories. So my job is to, which means that I've gone through a lot of lack stories to be able to teach these things. But it's just like, it's all the like fine tuning energetics, whether it's like past life, current life, body energetics. There might be communication between different organs and endocrine systems that need to be updated. All of that to support you in your most optimal ease and flow. Yay!
So we're really excited because not only are we taking the wisdom of body talk and all the years of both of our experience in the energy work field, but then we're also going alongside with this intensive work for deprogramming, especially when it comes to our belief systems. We have so much within our subconscious that takes up like 99% of your mind, right? So in the subconscious mind, we can have these beliefs, whether they be generationally passed down or things that we heard within childhood when our critical mind was not yet formed, that become these deep-seated roots to filter our reality and our perception of reality. And within that, that has a really, really big effect on how we embody and how we show up. So when we are speaking to leaders, we are speaking to leaders in all realms, right? So whether you're a mother or you're a father, whether you are a leader within your community, or you are desiring to be like the next big message deliverer to the consciousness to change our collective. This program is for all of us because we have this subconscious belief system around leadership that continues to perpetuate actions that are not sustainable, that are inherent beliefs of how we think leadership is meant to show up, right? And so, do you want to talk about a little bit about the program of how we exactly go through into the subconscious mind to kind of break down these former beliefs and former patterns of how leadership is embodied and how we show up as leaders, and where the body talk and the sound kind of come into that deep integration too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I want to take us just like one step back to kind of paint the picture. But think about like moms, right? It's like, we emulate our mom, we emulate dads, we emulate our teachers, we emulate, when we see politicians on TV or leaders on TV. And the thing is, it's like those leadership styles, a lot of them are very outdated. Think about like a normal classroom where it's like one teacher and then all these kids, and all the kids have to like stay silent, listen to the teacher. So none of this really allows for genuine authenticity to like come through. And so I feel like we're living in this really special time where we get to decondition, release, and really find what is leadership for you, what is leadership for me, and that's going to look different for each of us, right? And when you can find that sweet spot of your authentic leadership, like your body lights up, your emotions light up, your relationships get supercharged. And it is a little distracting because we're always seeing external leaders and what they do, but it's like, what is it that is for you, right? So me and Danielle have, Luminescent is going to be such a powerful portal because you're getting this combination of music that's going to take your brain waves into space to allow it to be easier to have. So, we talk about positive thinking and affirmations, but we also have these archetypes and belief systems that have been living inside of your brain for a long time. So we want to be able to address those collective belief systems in the unconscious so that it's not just your conscious thought saying, yes, this is like, I'm going to have ease, all these things, when you have all this unconscious, these unconscious archetypes that are kind of moving in opposition of you because they're like, you can't have ease. That's not okay. You need to work super, super hard. And so we want to take time to address those tiny belief systems. And the best way is it's like you notice these little things where it's like, oh, that thing was so hard and now it feels so easy. That conversation, I couldn't even have that conversation before. And now I'm like, I just spontaneously had this conversation. And there's this new courage and bravery that starts to come forward when your unconscious and your conscious is like harmonized.
And that's really what our passion is for this container, because just like Samantha had said on my stories yesterday, which was just such a beautiful way to connect the way that our collective conscious works as well, is you go into the forest and you see a solo tree, and you may look from the outside and see on the surface that tree is standing alone, but beneath in the root system you see that it's actually connected to all the other trees. And that's how these belief systems within the archetypes of leadership, right, can be these like subtle governors of our reality. And then when we untangle that web, we get to choose a new narrative. And we want to see our leaders sustainably lit up. We want to see our leaders in full embodiment. So there isn't a fracture between the action and the word. So there is a coherent synergy that is connected throughout the collective, right? This idea of this kind of like polluted idea of leadership is that it must be one or the other, I think, rather than we can all rise together. We can all be in our embodiment, in our most radiant and alive state. And that doesn't mean that anybody else around me has to dim. That doesn't mean that anybody else has to lower themselves down. But in fact, when we all are lit up by this, when we all redefine what leadership looks like and how it moves and breathes into our communities and into our world, we get to really forge a new story, and one that's of sustainability, embodiment, and accountability. And that's what we're really, really excited to activate, because we both have seen the need for this, and we are ready to enter into that new paradigm.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had a super deep conversation with one person, and it kind of like, because we went so deep and cleaned up so many things, it like transpired to another relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many times I've had clients that were like, I've been working on this individually for so long, but it's actually in the group container that something was resolved. So when we go into a group container, it hits different frequencies. It's like, I always say it's better to be in the group container and get stimulated and get into like overwhelmed sometimes or whatever, versus like having it in your real life. Like I think of containers as kind of like this play space where you can work out the karma, work out the dharma, and then by the time you get into your real world, you're like, oh, I already had that training. Like I already figured it out in the group container, so you don't have to play it out in my real life. And so in the luminescent portal, it's like we get to deeply address these like unconscious archetypes. And here's the thing is like we don't actually consciously think about it a lot of times. We just feel like, oh, I have a headache. Or we feel like, oh, my tummy doesn't feel like there's just like some subtle background noise where you're like, I just don't have clarity and I don't know what it is. And it's like, it's not like an actual personality voice that you can hear that's like, oh, this part of my personality is in opposition of me. No, it's really when we go into the unconscious that we can even see that there were a collection of belief systems that might be outdated, and it might be mom's voice or dad's voice, or like a teacher, maybe a movie you picked up on, and all of those things just kind of like clutter your aura, clutter your energy field, and it jams things up. And the best way it's just like you become faster and more efficient, and things just flow faster. Danielle, do you want to share like just a couple examples of, as we've been birthing this container, like what has transpired or shifted for you?
Yeah, I'm especially within leadership, right? So owning that I'm a leader, I noticed very recently, I kept on repeating to myself, everybody wants a piece of me. Everybody wants a piece of me. And within that, I didn't realize how much I was saying yes to things out of my idea of a leader always saying yes to things, if that makes sense. So there was a underlying belief system for me that in order to be a valuable leader, I had to give all of my resources that I had at all times to anyone who ever asked me. And that was not sustainable. And I had a real life example of that at the beginning of the week. That was very, very interesting. I had said yes to showing up and fulfilling this role. And in my whole body, as it was leading up to this moment, I started feeling dissonance inside my body. I started feeling subtle anxieties. I started noticing I was biting at my nails a lot more. I started feeling a little claustrophobic and constricted. And when I notice that that constriction is present, that's where I can see that urgency is in my field and I'm no longer in my safety, right? So I'm not responding to requests from a safe, grounded place. I'm responding out of my head and out of this jittery nature for a belief that I thought as a leader, I had to always show up when I was requested to. And so I was creating a lot of this inner turmoil because I had said yes. I thought that because I said yes, no matter what, I have to follow through with that. Even if my energy levels shifted, even if there was something that happened, that my rhythms started shifting and changing, that it was my duty to show up in that place. And as I was working through this somatically, I was like, this feels really icky in my body. I'm not grounded and I'm not rooted in my safety. So really, let's break down what the story is here. And for me, the story was that my value as a leader was linked directly to my ability to show up to the things that I had said yes to prior. I'm a manifesting generator. So with me, I can say yes to something when I feel really lit up by it. But if the energy changes or things shift and I stay in obligation to that thing that I said yes to, frustration becomes very present. And when that frustration is present, I know I've disconnected from my safety because now I'm allowing external experiences around me, whether they be projected experiences or true experiences, to start governing my reality in that moment. And what was very interesting is it was really hard for me to say no. There's been really big times in my life because I've had that unconscious belief that in order to be a leader, it looked like A, B, and C. And when I spoke my truth and rooted into my safety and was able to tell these people that I had communicated with prior, I no longer have the resources to be able to do this, I was so well received. It was like water, clear channels began flowing over my heart, and I was so received in love to the point that they were extending like blessings towards me, saying, "I hope your business is so successful this week. Thank you so much for putting your small business first." When I had created all of this turmoil in my experience and in my outside world because there was this belief system saying that this is what leadership looked like. When in fact, that belief went against my natural rhythms. For me as a leader, I need to honor my resources first. And that's something that I've done a lot of the times is I deplete myself because I can see the needs of others. And that's something that happens in leadership a lot. That's why you get burnout. That's why you have sometimes the opportunity to deal with a lot of uncomfortable interpersonal communications because you haven't actually been speaking from a place of truth of what you're available for. You're speaking from a place of obligation, and that does not allow you to show up as an embodied leader. And people can feel the frequency of that, and it almost pollutes the container of even that relationship and how that's being held together. And that was a really big thing that I saw this week. That was so powerful because now I've been able to give myself the freedom of breath and then actually see that when I put my safety first, other people around me will gather around and actually support that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, maybe a lot of people don't even really think about the word safety or sanctuary. It's like when you allow your body to be like a really safe space, people kind of gravitate towards that. It's like there's like a presence, there's like a groundedness, and yeah, I love that story that you shared. And when you look at the ripple effect, it's like, okay, if you say yes to something and you're in the middle of it and you don't really want, like, we're just radiating upset energy through that whole group, but instead you've actually been like, no, my authentic no is actually going to create joy in that group and for you. It's going to create like a win-win situation. And I think that the energies of the planet honestly run differently than even like 2 decades ago, you know? So for instance, like that yes may have been an authentic yes in the moment, but then the energies have shifted and then
Yeah.
it was no longer an authentic yes. And I think that's why Luminescent is so important at this time, this program, because leadership looks differently. And even for myself, I noticed like I said yes to some pretty big projects, but I think that yes was just a turn on an excitement. It was just a turn on an energy. Maybe that project wasn't even actually meant to like come to fruition, but because of the excitement of the ideation and the creation of it, it led me to another part of creation. It opened up some energetic doors that like other opportunities came in. And so I feel like we're just navigating different waters at this time. Like astrologically it's different, but our brain is just like remembering like an old world, but that like paradigm actually doesn't fit with the current times.
And that's why this is definitely the forerunning, right? I think that we can all agree by the way that we've seen in a lot of the main projections in the world right now, like things have not been running sustainably. We'll just leave it at that. Things have not been running sustainably. And in order to really be that activator of a new paradigm, we need to start with the embodiment of it, right? So, something that has also been happening since we've started this container is it's been really interesting to see the way that people respond to us when we're rooted in our safety. Both of us have had really profound experiences where we have been received as we stay in our authentic truth. And even something as simple as being in a yoga class, and when I go into yoga, I kind of like I stay in my own sanctuary because that's time for me to really ground and be in my body and have everything turned off. And when I am so present with myself, it's very interesting to see the way that other people around you start responding and the way they get curious and the way that they notice there's something a little different. So what's so beautiful and powerful about the embodiment of this type of leadership is it doesn't even necessarily need to come with this grand arrival and proclamation of, and things are different now. Just by you embodying that different frequency, things around you start activating and start shifting, and things start reorganizing. And there's a redistribution of your resources that you remember. There's so many more resources. There's so many other options that doesn't have to be at the cost of you, like as a leader. Like it doesn't have to cost your time, your resources in the way of like you're pulling from the connected environment around you versus just tapping into your own energetic well of life, right? Because I also have seen that with a lot of leadership also in the way that it's been within myself, rather than being able to say, oh my gosh, there's so many other resources around here that I can plug into. And that's another powerful aspect of this group container is we are calling in people to be those grand connectors to one another so that we can amplify, so that we can accelerate this healing around our world and within our communities.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, this program, there's like, just like, I just feel like I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to say.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, which one do I pick? But kind of switching topics, but I feel like one thing with leadership is like the mothering energy. It's like I've seen so many leaders with their teams, the leader tends to radiate out mothering energy, and that mothering energy is actually a masculine, it's actually like a wounded masculine energy, and over time it ends up depleting the leader, and so it's like there's all these like layers and layers of like archetypes of where we're accidentally like leaking the energy. So something like really special that we're going to be doing in this luminescent process is turning on your diamond light body. So just like Danielle said, it's like, okay, previous, maybe you walk into a yoga class and your thoughts are like leaked outwards, which is actually already depleting your energy field. It goes into comparison and it goes into just extending energy, right? But when you have your diamond light body turned on, and I noticed this for myself too when I went into the yoga class, I was like, oh, my energy's contained. I'm like in here. I'm just like, and like the poses were so much stronger. And I just like, I felt like, I hadn't been back to yoga class for like 2 months, which is like very rare. But it was like, even though I hadn't been there for 2 months, but because my energy was present and contained, I just felt like I didn't feel any like comparison, anything. I just really felt like, oh, my energy's just like right here, and I didn't feel affected by the group, which is really rare for me, like as an empath. And I think there's so many people that are empaths that may not even know that they are, so I feel like the luminescent process of like turning on this diamond light body, because it's like it's revealing to you what does it really mean to put your safety and sanctuary first,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the safety piece in your body is beyond something conscious. It's like your body has like biological things that it needs, and energetic things that it needs to like actually feel so whole and grounded. And we break that down almost like on a scientific level inside of luminescence.
There's so many different aspects that we can dive into, and I think that both of us could talk about this forever. But if you are interested in like looking at the modules and being able to see what we're really going to dive into, that is all on the landing page, and you're able to see like module by module what type of things we're going to be talking about and how we're going to be touching on them. And again, for these in person, it's going to be in downtown Santa Barbara in the beautiful Lemon Temple. And we're going to be meeting for the container is 8 weeks long, and we'll be meeting for 6 of those weeks in person. And so this is going to be, like we said, with the group container, that hypercharges everything because we're all uniting that intention together. And it's like a super supercharged.
Yeah, and
um,
if you're not able to join us in person, we also have the online portion of it. And just remember, this is like a lifetime work. You know, you'll have lifetime access to the online portion. Some of these meditations are just like working out. You want to do them over and over until like these archetypes inside of your system begin to like really shift and change. Like, so what does embodiment really mean? Like, we hear about embodiment all the time. That means like something crazy can happen in your external world and you don't actually like react. You know what I mean? It's like you're so embodied in yourself that you're like, that's interesting that this external thing just happened and I'm still in my power, you know? And I feel like as a leader, it's like how fast, what's your emotional mastery? How fast can you get back into your energy? How fast can you come back into alignment? Like all of that is really what it's like. That's what collapses time. That's what speeds up manifestation, is that you're not like rocked off your center, you know?
yeah. So we
Yay!
are so excited. If you have any more questions, as we said, we could talk about this forever, but if you have any more questions, you can DM both of us directly. We're happy to talk to you about it. We are starting on the 10th, so you have plenty of time to join. And we are so excited to welcome those in that are really ready for this new level of leadership and of healing the collective vision of how we move forward together.
Yeah, I just want to like end with like painting this picture, right? So imagine a leader, when the leader doesn't feel safe and they feel frazzled and off track, the decisions that it makes, what ripple effect does that create, right? Versus the leader who is like, okay, like I know how to get into my joy. I know how to get my body into my happiness. I know like, okay, this happened, but I have all these tools to like in 15 minutes adjust myself into like powerfulness. What types of decisions does that leader make? And just imagine yourself like zoom out, you know, and just see like what world does each one of these leaders make, right? And if you're in the middle of like deciding about Luminescent, you might want to just like close your eyes, tune into your imagination, your third eye center, and imagine if you were to take the path of taking Luminescent versus not taking it, just like have your spirit guide you and show you the timeline, right? What's the ripple effect? To me, this investment is so tiny compared to like the huge ripple effects that could happen from this yes, you know? And not just on a financial level, but also on just like an emotional and a spiritual well-being level, right? So ask your spirit to show you, okay, if I say yes to Luminescent, what's going to happen? How am I going to feel in my body? Just show me the timeline. Okay, if I say no to Luminescent, what's going to happen? And you're going to see one of these paths will be brighter than the other, or feel better, or you know, or you'll get, you know, your spirit will give you the guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel like that's like kind of the best way to know, like, is a program like right for me or not? And of course, me and Danielle are so available for questions.
We are so excited to just see the way all of this unfolds. We are honored to be doing this work. It is our dharma, it is our highest calling and joy. And so we can't wait to see who all is feeling activated and lit up by the ripple effect that we can create together.
Yay! And I think this is like a tiny little closing meditation, just feeling into, you know, me and Danielle did a little past life view yesterday. So let's just close our eyes for a few moments, take a few deep breaths, and imagine this like really beautiful blue Nile River liquid light flowing throughout the city with gorgeous blue lotus flowers, and just touching that luminescent light of enlightenment that just floods through the city, floods through your body, feeling all of your guides, and just feel what that feels like to have that upliftment and to have that heaven on earth feeling where all the connections, the right connections, are just flowing in and out. And just take a deep inhale in, hold the breath, feel the light, and exhale. Yay! Amazing.
Have a beautiful day, and we are here for resourcing. And we are so grateful that you have taken the first step in owning that you are a leader in your community and in the world. We love you.
Bye.